Six essays, and we're on the second one.
Jai Saparika Shri Shri Guru Gauranga Gandhari Kaviridhari Shri Shri Radha Govinda Jiva Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Vinod Bihari Jiva Ki Jai Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Sudarshan Chakra Jiva Ki Jai Jai Shri Giriraj Govardhana Ki Jai Jai Shri Shri Nitai Gauranga Ki Jai Jai Shri Shri Bhagavan Ki Jai Jai Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai, Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayana Swami Maharaj Ki Jai, Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai, Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada Ki Jai, Shri Shri Rupanuga Guru Bharata Ki Jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai, Samagata Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Nitai Gauravanandi. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Jataha Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sarvabhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Pada Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangam Langayate Vidim Yat Kripa Tamaham Vande Shri Gurun Dinataram Vansha Kalpatarubhascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patikanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gaura Tishe Namaha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatapate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Jayatam Shuruto Pangor Mamamandamater Gati Matsarvasva Padam Bojo Radha Madana Mohano Divyad Vrindaranya Kalpadruma Dha Srimad Ratanagar Simhashanasto Srimad Radha Srila Govinda Devo Prishtalabhi Sevyamano Smarami Shriman Rasa Rasaramhi Vam Shivata Tatakstitaha Karshana Venu Swanayar Gopir Gopinata Shriyestunaha Bhaktya Vihina Aparadha Lakshay Tirtascha Kamadi Taranga Madhye Kripa Maitvam Sharanam Prapanna Vrinde Namaste Charanarinda Vrindai Tulsi Devai Priyai Keshavasya Krishna Bhakti Prade Devi Satyavachai Namo Namaha Pancha Tattvatmakam Krishnam Bhakta Rupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakta Shaktikam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivas Adi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. First of all, I'm offering my unlimited Dandavat Pranams, my Shraddha Pushpanjali, At the lotus feet of my most worshipful beloved Gurudev Nitya Lila Pravishta, Om Vishnu Pad Paramahansa, Ashtatar Sata Sri Srila, A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada. And my same unlimited Dandavat pranams to the lotus feet of my most worshipful beloved Siksha Gurudevs, Nitya Lila Pravishta, Om Vishnu Pad Paramahansa, Asto Tarasata Sri Srila Bhakti Rakshak, Sridhar Goswami Maharaj, and Nitya Lila Pravishta, Om Vishnu Pad Paramahansa, Asto Tarasata Sri Srila Bhakti Vedanta Narayana Goswami Maharaj. And my Dandavat pranams to all of my Sri Sri Rupa Nuga Guru Varga. And my Dandavat pranams to all the Vaishnavas and all the Vaishnavis. So we're continuing now the Sri Upadeshamrita commentary of Srila Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur, nearing the end. According to this, there's at least another 30 pages or so. And we're on the last item, so very elaborate explanations. So we're studying how the, let's see, the true Dharma of householders. That's the last section, the true Dharma of householders. And there we heard how Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he told this in Madhya Lila. Prabhu kohen Krishna seva, Vaishnava sevan, nirantara koro Krishna nam samkirtan. This means that the actual duty, the dharma of householders, is to maintain one's body by collecting whatever money is necessary through lawful means, and with the help of family members, serve Sri Krishna and the Vaishnavas, and engage in the constant performance of Nam Sankirtan. That's what Mahaprabhu directly told. Krishna Seva, Vaishnav Seva, Nirantara Koro Krishna Nam Sankirtan. Always, Nirantara, without cessation. So regarding the service of the Vaishnavas, it should be known that non-duplicitous Vaishnavas are of three types. Remember those three types? I know you do because you always take the notes. Oh, you? Okay.
I got the book. Yeah.
Wow, fantastic.
Yeah,
Yeah, so what are those? Those three types of Vaishnavas who are non-duplicitous. You know what the word is for non-duplicitous? It means nishkapatya. Nishkapat. Kapatya means deceit, deceitfulness, kapatya. Nishkapatya means non-deceitful, non-duplicitous. So there are three types, Uttam, Madhyam, and Kanishta. It's interesting that all three can be in this category of Nishkapatya. We would ordinarily think that only higher Vaishnavas, but also neophyte Vaishnavas can be like this if they are sincere and honest. Nishkapatya. They don't have other motivations. And here it says that this is the householder's duty, is to serve. Service to these three types of Vaishnavas is alone the Vaishnava Seva. It is improper to invite a gathering of Vaishnavas. It is improper to invite a gathering of Vaishnavas. Why is that surprising?
Because we do it all the time.
But you see, this is an invitation by a householder to his home. It's not an institutional gathering, and in that way, it's improper. Why? Because whenever a Vaishnava comes, he should be affectionately served in an appropriate manner. And if one assembles many Vaishnavas, then the chances of making offenses are greater. Why? Because you won't be able to pay proper attention, or you might pay more to one and not to the other, and so forth. So here, now Mahaprabhu is saying, Bahut sannyasi jadi aise ek thai. This is also from the same chapter 15 of Madhya Lila, Chaitanya Charitamrita. Saman kurite nadi aparad pai. If many sannyasis come together in one place, all of them cannot be honored, and then offenses will be committed. It is the duty of householder Vaishnavas to be merciful toward the wretched and the distressed, who are to never attempt suicide. I'm making this point, that those who are distressed, they might even be so much distressed to the point where they might want to commit suicide. So the duty of the householder Vaishnava to be merciful towards these wretched and distressed persons. Whether out of anger they would attempt to commit suicide, or with the aim of attaining a virtuous goal. Suicide is an act in the mode of ignorance. And as long as the quality of ignorance is dominant in a person, he is unqualified to receive the mercy of Bhagavan. Remember that?
We read this before. Yeah, I remember.
Yeah. If ignorance is dominant, he's unqualified to receive all the mercy of Bhagavan. So how important is it to rise above passion and ignorance? Come to goodness. Now in the realm of Krishna Bhajan, the consideration of junior and senior exists in Krishna Bhajan, but not the caste and the familial lineage. This is in worldly dharma. The qualification to perform certain activities is in accordance with one's varna, but there are no such distinctions in relation to Bhagavan Bhajan. So understand this point? It's far beyond birth or any kind of material designation. So that's where now we heard the quotation from Antya Lila, chapter 4, where Mahaprabhu is saying, Nicha jati nahi Krishna bhajane ajogya, and so forth. Birth in a low family is no disqualification for the execution of Krishna bhajan. And birth in a family of Brahmins is no qualification for it. Okay? So anyone who performs bhajan, he's exalted. Jai bhaje se boro. Jai bhaje se boro means he who does bhajan, se boro, he is great. He is exalted. But abhakta heen char. But one who is not a bhakta is heen and char, is condemned and abominable. So, Krishna bhajane nahi jati kuladi vichar. In the discharge of Krishna bhajan, there is no consideration of the status of one's family lineage or socio-cultural background. Now, Grihastha Vaishnavas should be satisfied with whatever they have secured, with little endeavor for their daily requirements. And then we mentioned simple living, high thinking in this context. So the verse is being quoted here from the Chaitanya Bhagavat. Sabha hoite bhagyavanta Sri Shaka Vyanjan. Puna puna jaha prabhu kore na graha. What does this mean? Most fortunate of all the preparations were the spinach, the shak, and the vegetables. They were the most fortunate of all the preparations because the Lord accepted them again and again. So, knowing Krishna to be Sarveshwara. That means the master of all. Sarva Ishwara, master of all. The householder Vaishnavas are to eagerly perform one-pointed Bhagavad Bhajan. And additionally, they must not disrespect the demigods worshipped by Smartas and other philosophical schools. So they should not disrespect, but they don't worship the demigods. Now the next section is titled, To Act with Compassion, even at the cost of giving up self-interest, is the duty of householders. Householder Vaishnavas should faithfully serve Tulsi and chant Harinam while keeping Tulsi nearby. Oh, simple. Huh? What do we understand from that sentence? But the householder Vaishnava should faithfully serve Tulsi and chant Harinam while keeping Tulsi nearby. I think what we can conclude is Tulsi Devi is very, very important in bhajan life. Huh? Did we not see the example shown by our Gurudev? I saw. Wherever Gurudev went. Of course, he had his arrangers, like Tungavidya and Vrindadidi, who would come before he would come. They would set up his room and everything, make sure. But Tulsi had to be there, always. And whenever Gurudev is lecturing, always Tulsi there. Always. So, it's very important, Tulsi Devi. And proper worship, serving Tulsi, and chanting Harinam. We know that practically in the pastimes of Haridas Thakur, when the prostitute came and tried to make him fall down, but after 3 days, she became completely converted just by hearing his chanting. And then he told her, he gave her the instruction, sit near Tulsi, serve Tulsi, and chant Harinam in that pastime. Now, the next point, householders who possess bhakti are praiseworthy. Householders who possess bhakti are praiseworthy. Whereas householders who do not, they are unfortunate. When householders have worldly dealings, they do so while taking shelter of Krishna Nam. In this regard, the character of a Mahajan, who is named Kalidas, is exemplary. Now we'll hear about Kalidas. How his behavior was exemplary. This is from Chaitanya Charitamrita Antya 16. Maha Bhagavata Teo Sarala Udar Krishna Nam Samkete Chalaya Vyavahar Kautuke Tevo Jadi Pashaka Kelai Hare Krishna Kori Pashak Chalai. Kalidas, being a most exalted devotee, here it uses the words Mahabhagavat. So, he was very simple. Very Mahabhagavat he was. And he was very simple. The word for simple is Sarala. And also he was very munificent, Udar. Sarala means simple, and Udar means very munificent. And he would chant Krishna Nam Samkete Chalaya Vyavahar. He would chant Krishna Nam in his normal dealings. As a joke, Kautuke Teho, Kautuke Kete means as a joke, he would throw dice. He would throw dice and exclaim, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. No Vaishnava should earn unlawfully or spend wastefully. Those who are employed, they should not accept bribes. See? Honesty. Very essential. Simple. Honest. Yes. I remember when I first came to the temple, how devotees would teach to me. Oh, Prabhu, don't waste Krishna's energy. Do you remember that? Don't waste Krishna's energy. Like if you left the faucet running a little bit. Don't waste Krishna's energy. Prabhupada said, you shouldn't waste Krishna's energy. And then they would elaborate and they would say, and Prabhupada said even Krishna himself doesn't waste his energy one iota. This is the mood of a Vaishnava. So, the Vaishnava no Vaishnava should earn unlawfully. Should be honest. Not with sinful activity involved. And at the same time, they should not also spend wastefully. Only what is needed. Those who are employed, their rule that they have to follow is don't accept bribes. No bribes. But nowadays, the whole world is going on by means of bribery. Everything. It's so dirty. But in the lives of the household, whatever is going on in the world, let it be, but they should follow properly. Now, householders are to accept a guru endowed with bhakti and ideal character. Guru should be endowed with bhakti and should have ideal character. Householders are to accept such a guru. Householders must always be careful to perform activities through which offenses in service, that means seva, aparad, offenses in service, they will not arise. Yes. Should be careful. Householders should always be careful to perform activities through which offenses in service will not arise. If one commits an aparad to a Vaishnava because of the influence of illusion, then one should fall at the feet of that Vaishnava and immediately beg for forgiveness. Otherwise, the result of that aparad will be terrible. Oh yes. You can read the book written by Srila Bhakti Pramod Puri Maharaj, titled The Heart of Krishna. And this is from his essays over a period of decades, actually.
Vaikuntha Maharaj is lecturing on that every night now.
That very book?
He's reading that book,
Oh.
In the morning, Chaitanya Bhagavat, in the evening.
Wow. Nice. Good. Yeah, what Srila Puri Maharaj has done in that book is he's written articles all on this one subject matter of the dangers of Vaishnava Aparad, and he illustrates every one of them from different histories from Shastra. Like, for example, Durvasa Rishi and Ambarish Maharaj. How Durvasa Rishi, that's one of the most classic of all. But there are many, many, many different stories of different types of aparads that have been committed in the Bhagavatam, from Chaitanya Bhagavat, Chaitanya Charitamrita. So, the primary activity of householders is to serve devotees. For serving devotees increases one's bhakti. That's the primary activity of householders, to serve devotees. You know that song that we sing all the time on the Ekadasi day by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Shuddha Bhakata Charana Renu Bhajana Anukula Bhakata Seva Parama Siddhi Premalati Kara Mula. Here's telling that Bhakata Seva Parama Siddhi, serving of bhaktas, is the highest perfection and brings the highest perfection. Prema Lati Kara Mula. It is the very root of the vine of Krishna prema. Kara Mula. Mula means vine, means root. Prema Lati Kara Mula. That service to the Vaishnava is the root of prema. Prema Lati, the vine of prema. And now here from Anjalila 16, Chaitanya Charitamrita, now the famous verse is being quoted. Bhakta pada duliyar, Bhakta pada jal, Bhakta bhukta avashesh, 18 sadhaner bal. 18 sadhaner bal. 18 means 3. It is the strength, it is the bala of all sadhana. So here it says the dust of the lotus feet of devotees. Bhaktapada duli. Duli means dust. The dust of their lotus feet. And Bhaktapada jal, the water that washes their lotus feet. Bhakta bhukta avashesh, and their remnant prasadam gives immense strength to the sadhakas in their practice of bhakti. These are all absolute principles to be followed. Now, the next section is the duty of householders before becoming completely dedicated devotees. Oh, there's a different category. What is the duty of householders before they become completely dedicated devotees? So in the Srimad Bhagavatam, 11th canto, 20th chapter, verses 27 and 28, Sri Krishna has spoken about how a householder devotee is to behave as long as he is not completely dedicated and his desires for sense gratification have not been thoroughly destroyed. So here is a particular category. I wonder how many devotees fit into that category. I wonder. What do you think? What percentage do you think?
99.9.
What are the two criterion here? How householder devotee is to behave as long as he is not
Completely
dedicated and his desires for sense gratification have not been thoroughly destroyed. Jai Shri Shri Radha Govinda Ki Jai. Now, these two verses that are being quoted here are very fundamental verses of the 11th canto. They're quoted in so many contexts. And even Bhaktivinoda Thakur has quoted them before in this same commentary. So therefore we have to understand these two verses very, very scrutinizingly. So I'm reading the verses. Jata Shraddho Mat Katasu Nirvinna Sarva Karmasu Veda Dukatmakam Kaman Parityage Pi Anishwaraha Tato Bhajeta Mam Prita Shraddhalur Dridha Nishchaya Jushamanas Chatan Kaman Dukko Darkams Chagarhayan. Okay, now we're going to read this. Yeah, so many times. I still haven't committed these to memory, but so much of these two verses are so familiar. So here, I'll just read the translation first, then we'll break it down. A sadhak who has developed faith in narrations about me, mat katasu. Who is Krishna speaking to here? Uddhava, because it's the 11th canto. That's called the Uddhava Gita, something like more than 20 chapters. Krishna, these are his final teachings before leaving the planet, and he spoke this to Uddhava. And they're all about some of the most important teachings regarding renunciation, bhakti, everything, practical teachings. 11th canto is continually being quoted all throughout this whole commentary of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So here it's talking about that category of devotee that we just seem to all agree is like in the 99% category, most probably. Maybe not. But anyway, here he's talking about a sadhak who has developed faith in narrations about me. Jata Shraddha. Jata Shraddha means faith has arisen. Shraddha has arisen. In what? Mat Katasu. That means in the Katha about me. Okay? A sadhak who has developed faith in narrations about me and who is disgusted with all kinds of fruitive activity. Now that's his qualification. He's disgusted. Why is he disgusted? We're going to find out. Krishna's explaining. Nirvinna sarva karmashu. Karmasu. Nirvinna. So, he's actually disgusted with all kinds of fruitive activity, and faith in Krishna's Katha has arisen. Okay? But here's some lacking here now. Veda dukatmakam atmakam kaman parityage pi anishwaraha. So, he knows that he is disgusted with all kinds of fruit activities. He may still be unable to do what? To give up material enjoyment. And also the desire for such enjoyment. But he's disgusted with the fruitive activities. But still, he's Anishwara. Anishwara means he's not Ishwara. He can't control. He still can't give up the desire for material enjoyment and material enjoyment. Now, Veda Dukatmakam Kaman. Veda means he knows. Dukkha Atmakan. He knows that such so-called pleasures are actually sources of dukkha. That's why he's disgusted. That's why he's disgusted. Because he understands what is the nature of the material enjoyment. But still, he has some desires. And knowing that such so-called pleasures are actually sources of misery, what should he do? This is a very important verse. It's probably one of the main themes of the neophyte devotees' lives. He knows this. What should he do then?
Is this what Gurudev meant when he talked about that very precarious position when
but slightly different. But yeah, it does. It does. Okay. Now, what should he do?
Chant, pray, and cry.
That's quite accurate. Yes. It says, knowing that such so-called pleasures are actually sources of misery, he should condemn himself while attempting to enjoy them.
Whoa.
Understand this? He can't stop that tendency, but he knows, he's actually disgusted, but he can't yet give that up. And he knows that what he's doing as he's engaging in that is going to cause what? Suffering. So here's Krishna's instruction what that devotee has to do. Because that devotee has faith in the narrations of Krishna Katha. It's not that that devotee doesn't have faith. He's a good devotee. In Krishna Katha he has faith, Shraddha. No. He should condemn himself while attempting to enjoy them. And thereafter, in due course of time, he may be able to worship me with love, faith, and fixed determination. Yes. You see? How essential is this instruction? Yeah.
Is this the difference between Shraddha and Nishta? Like at this stage of Shraddha, you still have these tendencies and you like have a little bit of faith in the Harikatha and Krishna's words, but you're not able to really follow.
Right.
Yeah. And then at the stage of Nishta, you're actually able to follow.
Well, sure. Because that Shraddha has become more strong. And one thing that we have to understand about Nishta. Nishta comes after the course of what? Yeah, but bhajan, kriya, and anartana vritti. This is a very big awakening for me in my early years. Because I understood that, oh, I just have to be tolerant and patient. Because the process has to take place. I can't just immediately say, I want to be free of all anarthas right now. No, that's not possible. That's not possible. Of course, by the will of Krishna, he can do anything. By the will of a great devotee like Narada, like Gurudev used to say, he can place his hand on your head and say, may you have Krishna praying. Immediately you'll have Krishna praying. That's the power. But we're talking about the natural, normal course of all persons who are trying to become sadhaks, right? So that position of Nishta is attained. Again, I'm quoting the same verse we always used to say before the classes. Nashtak prayeshu abhadreshu. Now, that nashtak prayeshu, nashtak means destroyed. Prayeshu abhadreshu means mostly. Prayeshu. Abhadreshu means the anarthas, the inauspicious things. So when that stage has been achieved, at that stage, nashtak prayeshu abhadreshu, which has been activated by what? Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. Yes, it has been activated by serving. Bhagavata Sevaya means service to two types of Bhagavats. We always have to remember this. There are two types of Bhagavats. We just heard about how the householder Vaishnava must serve the Vaishnavas, but especially the Bhakta Bhagavat. That's not an ordinary devotee. A Bhakta Bhagavat is a pure Maha Bhagavat Vaishnava, Rasika Vaishnava. He is the personification of Srimad Bhagavatam. But Srimad Bhagavatam is the other type. It's called Grantha Bhagavat. Means the Shastra, the book Bhagavat. Prabhupada used to say book Bhagavat and person Bhagavat. So Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya means by constant service. Nityam means all the time, constantly. That means that you've already been striving to do that in your life consistently for however long, years, right? And now the cleansing is going on all the time. That cleansing is always going on. Cleansing of the heart from the anarthas. Bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. Then naishtiki bhakti bhavati. It will be. It comes then at that stage. So nishta is a very good, solid, advanced stage. Can we say that there's no desires there in that devotee still, even in the stage of nishta? No, because there are different stages of removal of the anarthas. There are actually 5 different stages of removal of the anarthas. And each anartha has its own, rate, speed at which it's removed. Some certain types of anarthas are removed even in the stage of bhajan kriya. But certain other types of anarthas cannot be removed until one reaches the stage of bhav. There's absolute removal, there's partial removal, like this. This is all described in Madhurya Kadambini. So, but still, what you're suggesting has some relevance to this.
I was just thinking about it because I think sometimes it's just like, oh, if I had any Shraddha, then automatically I would be able to follow all of Gurudev's instructions. If I had Shraddha and Gurudev, then I would do these things. But this distinction is also helpful to know, like, oh, Shraddha doesn't mean that automatically you're able to follow everything.
Because Shraddha is many, many stages. And we always have to remember that actually Shraddha is the last fraction of praying. That's how Gurudev described this tiny little thing, Shraddha, in the heart. So the constant execution of the instructions of the spiritual master, of the instructions of the Shastras, living one's life in that way, it will gradually bring the devotee to deeper and deeper stages of Shraddha. Because actually this is what it is. It's the development of Shraddha up to the stage of praying. So in the stage of the lower stages of most Vaishnavas, their bhajan is called anishtita. Before coming to the stage of nishta, their bhajan practice is called unsteady. Unsteady means anishtita. And we can also examine this, I think, 6 different stages of unsteady bhajan, and very nicely described by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, how the devotee will be, how he will behave. Like, I'll just give one of them, the first one. That's one of my favorites. It's called Utsahamayi. Remember that? Yeah. What is it? Remember?
False enthusiasm or something like
Is that the ABC one?
that? You want to jump?
That's
That's right.
One.
Yeah. A little child is going to school for the first time. And, naturally the parents are encouraging the child. And then the child goes to school, and then when he's picked up by the parents and brought home again, then the child is very excited. And he says, oh, today I became a very great scholar. I learned A, B, C. And then the parents, what do they say to him? Wow. Yes, you became such a great scholar. Because they're trying to encourage him that he should continue. But what takes place within the next couple of days, 2, 3, 4 days, he's been going to school, and now he comes back and he's, And then the parents say, oh, why are you feeling like this? Oh, I don't know. So much to learn, because he's thinking in the beginning that he's got it all. He can just snatch it all with his hand. But then days after days, and he's still studying, and the whole alphabet is so long, and like that. So it's the natural tendency of a child that is to become overly enthusiastic, and then the next moment they can become, disappointed. So that's called utsahamai, because utsaha means enthusiasm, and it means like filled with enthusiasm. So like this, different stages of unsteady bhajan. Gana tarala, that means sometimes thick, sometimes thin, the endeavors. What are the others? Vyuta vikalpa, oscillating determination. Yeah, that whole thing. So like that. So anyway, to go back and refer to what we just read, this is very, very essential for all of us. This is such a clear instruction, you see. And if a devotee is sincere, naturally he's going to come to this point in his attempt to do Krishna bhajan. And at that stage, he will have to have this kind of intelligence. This intelligence is gifted to the devotee, right? So the devotee understands, yes, I've always experienced throughout my whole life that when I do particular kinds of acts, they end in suffering. My attempts to enjoy in this way and in that way have ended in suffering. So his intelligence becomes more and more clear that that's actually the nature of this material world. This is a very necessary, realization for even neophyte devotees to have. That this material world is, as Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, duk alayam. You know what that means? Dukhalayam. Dukkha means suffering, misery. This material world is full of misery. And I think any person can see that. But because Maya is very strong, Maya always tries to cover the inevitable, obvious, which you've experienced many times again and again, the obvious end result. This is spoken about by Krishna in the first chapters of Bhagavad Gita quite often. He's talking about that, you see, being able to restrain the senses from the sense objects, understanding that they lead to suffering, you see. So the conditioned nature of the jiva, who still becomes susceptible to the Mayic influence, gradually, the intelligence becomes more and more purified by performing bhakti, by hearing from great authorities, shastra. All the activities are purifying body, mind, intelligence, everything, you see. And then gradually, he comes through the various stages and continues to make progress. But actually, that progress has so many stages. There's the 3 divisions, Kanishta, Madhyam, Uttam. But Gurudev said within each division, there are lakhs. He always liked to use the word lakhs. Hundreds of thousands of different stages. So this is the thing that the Kanishta devotee has to become very dedicated. That dedication is the greatest wealth, and has to learn to follow Upadeshamrita, right? Vachovegam, Manasakrodavegam, Jiva Vegam, Udurupasta Vegam, Etan Vegan, Yo Vishaheta Dhira, Sarvam Apimam Prativim Sashishyat. Dhira, sober. The devotee has to become like that. And you can analyze that when these are not controlled, these urges are not controlled, they're not tolerated by the devotee, what happens? Suffering. Vachovegam, suffering. Manasavegam, suffering. Krodavegam, suffering. Udara Upastavegam, Jiva Vegam, Tongue uncontrolled, suffering. Tongue uncontrolled, belly uncontrolled, suffering. Tongue, belly, genitals uncontrolled, suffering. So this is a necessary realization for anyone that wants to come into any yoga system. Mind, sense control, and learning how to tolerate the urges. But this is not artificially done. It has to be done like Krishna says, Jata Shraddho Matkatasu. We are living a life of nectar. We are living lives of drinking nectar all the time. But if we try to mix that with the poison of the material enjoyment, and we get the corresponding result, the suffering that comes from that, that drinking of nectar, we cannot access it as well. We can access because it is just by nature, Kevala Anandakanda, full of nectar, full of happiness, full of joy. They're natural activities of the Atma, Bhakti Yoga. But if we start to mix it, then what happens? Oh, then your ability to perceive that joy, it becomes covered. That's why we have all these instructions which are quite simple. Follow 4 regulative principles, do such and such. Quite simple. That is the key, and that is the undefeatable process. Anyone who follows that sincerely from the heart, they will naturally progress. It will come automatically. And as the years go by, and then as the decades go by, as we have experienced, so many stages, so many gains will come, so many things will be gained, you see. So anyway, we've come to the end of this class, but we'll continue again tomorrow on this same topic, because there's more explanation by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Gaur Premanandi. Vancha kalpatarubhascha kripa sindhubhyacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo. Jai Shri Guru Gauranga Gandharvika Giridhari